Welcome, friends, to the 2022 fall edition of Colorado's Best Kitchens magazine. I'm Chef Mark, the food writer for Colorado's Best Kitchens magazine, and we're here to celebrate the fall issue. So this year I wrote about being ready for the holidays. Thanksgiving is coming up, and I like to be ready by practicing the dishes I'm going to make throughout the year so that when Thanksgiving comes around, I am ready. So what am I going to do? I'm going to make some mashed potatoes. It's been a long time since I've made mashed potatoes on camera for the fans of this channel. So let's talk about it. Really simple. Cream and butter, salt and pepper, potatoes. That's all you need for ingredients. And then mise en place equipment. You need a food ricer or a food mill. I get these on Amazon. They're by a company called ChefMarkKalix. They're really the best out there. A colander, and then you'll need 2 pots, a pot full of water, and then a smaller pot to heat cream and butter. I'll get back to that. So when I talk about being ready for the holidays and prepping throughout the year and practicing, the goal really should be to be able to make all of the things that you're going to make without having to open a recipe book, having the recipes memorized. Well, you might think, gosh, I'm making turkey and cranberry and sweet potatoes and mashed potatoes and gravy and a salad and rolls. Chef Mark, am I supposed to memorize all of that? Yeah, you really are. And what you're not memorizing is the minutia of the recipe. What you're memorizing should be the technique. So one of the techniques when we're making mashed potatoes is to always start the potatoes in cold water. That allows them to cook very evenly. When I'm doing potatoes, the other thing I do, and really anything I'm making, is try to be a day in advance, or 2 or 3. So this year, Thanksgiving, it's on a Thursday, right? I know it's on a Thursday every year. I'm trying to be silly. But point being is, because we know it's coming up, we know what day of the week it is, we can be ready. So Monday or Tuesday, your shopping should be done. And then Tuesday and Wednesday, your prep, deep prep, like chopping your potatoes the day before, putting them in a pot of water, and having them ready to go. Whether they're sitting in your fridge, or they're sitting out in the cold garage, or they're sitting on the countertop full of ice to keep them cold, you want them ready to go. The next day, I change the water, put them on the stove, bring to a boil, reduce to a simmer. It's important to heat your cream and your butter before you add it to your potatoes. Really anything you're adding to your potatoes. If you love sour cream and cream cheese in your mashed potatoes, make sure you heat them up first. If you don't, if you add cold ingredients directly to your potatoes, they seize up and you end up with wallpaper paste. So I like heavy cream and butter, and I'm gonna eye this out. Now the way I eye this out, and this is one of the things you can learn when you're practicing your ingredients, is I do everything in the same pot always. So I always heat my cream and butter in this small sauce pot, and I have the rivets here, and I can see that I like to have my cream come up to about a 1/2 inch below the rivets. So that way, next time I make it, I measure it the first time, I look at the pot and go, 1/2 inch below the rivets. I might even make a little note in the recipe book. And then how much cream and butter? Well, I think a 1-to-1 ratio does it. So I'm gonna do 1/2 pound of butter to about 1/3 a quart of cream, and I'm going to bring this up to a simmer. It doesn't have to boil. You just need it to be warm enough that you take the chill off of it. But you definitely need to warm it. Just taking it out of the fridge and letting it hang out at room temperature is not going to cut it. So let's bring this up. Okay, we've got lots of things boiling here. I just want to talk briefly about Colorado's Best Kitchens magazines and what we're proud of this year. What we saw this year, the trend was a lot of the kitchens that we highlight in the magazine were in rural areas, whether they are in the mountains or the plains, really far away from our headquarters in Denver, sometimes up to a 2-hour drive in each direction. But it seems to me that the trend being that the modern living, the mountain living, and the homestead lifestyle out in the east really is bringing the modern amenities of beautiful appliances to a rural area. And of course the homes, all of the homes that we're highlighting in this magazine this year couldn't be more beautiful. So congratulations to everyone who made it in the magazine. Here are my potatoes. I drain the potatoes and I just set them right back on top of the pot. This pot's now empty, but allows the potatoes to finish draining without making a big puddle on my cutting board. I want these to steam out a little bit. That's going to carry excess moisture away from the potato. And the reason I want that is so that I can cram more cream and butter into my potato, the good stuff. Okay, fantastic. Okay, there's my potatoes. Just gonna pour that little bit of water out here. Now, my potatoes are hot. I'm gonna mash them back into the pot I just cooked them in, and that's gonna keep the potatoes nice and warm. Do not mash potatoes into a cold container, like let's say a bowl or something. I find the pot that you mash them into works the best. All right, don't be a hero, just a couple potatoes, and off we go with the ricer. You can use a ricer, or you could use a food mill. I wouldn't recommend one of those wavy metal mashers. I love those for red potatoes, but I don't think they work as well for mashed potatoes. And I'm using Idaho russet potatoes. We want to move these as little as possible so we don't get something called glutinous development. And potatoes, of course, do not have gluten in them, but what happens is if you move your potatoes a lot, your potatoes start to mimic gluten. They get sticky. So we don't want that. We don't want sticky potatoes. We want light and fluffy. And there's no better tool, in my opinion, than the ricer. If you don't have a ricer, buy one now before the holidays. Have it ready. You'll use it surprisingly more frequently than you think. Salt. I like kosher salt. And I try to add the right amount of salt first so I don't have to stir too much. White pepper is invisible in mashed potatoes. That's why I prefer that over black pepper. Fresh ground, of course. And then here's my cream and butter. And this is really where the magic happens. I'm gonna get my cream and butter in there. I'm just gonna estimate how much it takes. Got my cream, my butter, my salt, my pepper, and I'm just going to gently fold. Really just going to take my time here. I don't want to mix, I don't want to whip, don't want to stir, I don't want to move the potatoes any more than I need to. And that's about it. That's going to get the trick done. Oh man, they look great. Now they might look a little on the thin side, but I know from experience that as they sit, and these can sit for several hours in the back of the stove covered, and they'll stay hot. You can flash them in the oven at the last moment if you need to get a little bit more heat into them, but they will stay hot for a long time. And I know from experience, as they rest, they'll just tighten up a little bit. The cream and butter will absorb into them. So you can go slightly looser when you're first making them. So by the time dinner comes around, you have that nice well to be able to support your potatoes. I'm going to dig into some of these. I'm going to adjust for salt and pepper. They smell delicious, so I bet I nailed it on the salt and the pepper, but I never know. So always taste your food and make those adjustments. And folks, that's how you get ready for the holidays, by having your recipes perfected before the date comes. And my family loves this because they're eating stuffing in July, and they're eating pumpkin pie in June, and that way I'm spreading it out. I choose one or two recipes, particularly things that challenged me the previous year. My last final piece of advice is do not choose a recipe that you've never made before and then go into the holiday thinking this is going to go great. If you haven't practiced it, maybe it's not the day of the big event. It's not the day to practice new things. If you rehearsed it beforehand, great, then go for it. You'll have a much better chance of success. This is Chef Mark. I'm with Colorado's Best Kitchens magazine. Thanks for tuning in and enjoying the fall 2022 edition.